Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Thursday, June 18th, 2020. Been a while since we've been live, and I want to say hello to everybody. Long time no see. Feels like it's been forever. Just giving a quick update today on Grand Solar Minimum news. Whoop, turn that down. Just an update real quick. The project that we are working on, everything is going smoothly, but do expect some more time away from the channel, and we will try to be a part of updating you guys with news as much as possible. We realize we're not the only source for this kind of news, but we do appreciate the loyalty and you guys sticking around and being patient. We promise once we get done with a few of our projects, we will be able to give more time to the channel. But as for now, we do have a Grand Solar Minimum update today. Checking out our solar wind speeds coming in at 302.8 kilometers per second. Now, before the show, I did an update, checked it out. When I first started with the show, it was saying 298, and now we are looking at 302. So right now, solar wind speeds appear to be low and not much action. 10.2 density right now. 2 days in a row without a sunspot. And before we took our little break for a little while, we were dealing with a sunspot. AR2765, I believe, was the number. That has now disappeared off to the western hemisphere, the western side of our limb here, down at the bottom right corner if you're looking at it from your screen. That sunspot's still active. That doesn't mean it's gone, but it's just not in Earth view, so it is not counted as Earth-facing sunspots. So right now, we're sitting at 124 sunspots for the year. I'm sorry, days without sunspots. 73% of the time. Last year, we finished with 77% of the year without sunspots. Right now, we're trending to come very close to that with 124 days without sunspots, and we're right about at that halfway point of the year. So right now, we continue this pace. We won't surpass last year's spotless days, but it's another strong minimum as far as spotless days go. Looking at the sun right now, it's blank. And we'll go to the grandsolarminimum.com here just in a second, and we will check out and see if we have anything upcoming here in the near future. So KP indices, what's weird is it's almost like every time that I do a show that we are reporting that the KP indices are at a 1 or a 2. And right now we are sitting at a 1. 24-hour max is at a 2. That usually brings earthquakes and volcanic activity, and we have a couple of those to talk about here just in a minute. But first, let's go ahead and go over to the grandsolarminimum.com. And here we'll check out some space weather action as well. Taking a look at, let's see. There's our solar X-ray flux. As you can tell, it's been dying off and just a little bit active. We had a couple of solar flares last week. We had an M class that is waking up a little bit from the sun, not having sunspots. We haven't had an M class sunspot or a solar flare since 2017, so quite a wake up there. But as we look at our star and we see the big picture here, let's go ahead and zoom in on this particular graph. This shows us what we could look forward to. Question in the chat, Steven Jackson wants to know, what are the average sunspots per year? And I can tell you that it's not so much per year, but it's the smooth number that they pick for the entire cycle. The best way I can explain it is in solar cycle 24, I believe our peak was right around 167 smooth sunspot number count. For solar cycle 25, we're only predicted somewhere around 91 to 115. Some are actually saying it could be as low as 65. So it's not really, that's a good question. I'll have to look that up myself as far as a yearly number for sunspots. But when you have these streaks of, now think about it this way, throughout the year, we're probably talking anywhere from 8 to 15 different named sunspots, but that's during a minimum. So as far as what the average number of sunspots is per year during a maximum period of time, that's something I'm going to have to look up. I don't actually have that off the top of my head. But right now, even though we had quite a few days with some sunspot action, we have a little bit of active region here that is just now beyond the eastern limb. It is not a sunspot. So when you compare these two regions, this one's not a sunspot, does not have dark cores. This one possibly is also the same thing. We don't know if this is a sunspot yet or not. But if it's not, these areas right here indicate that we could be seeing at least spotless activity for the next 7 to 12 days. That doesn't mean that we can't see an improvement of these active regions and they turn into sunspots. The one thing I will notice is when you go to places like SPACEWEATHER.com, Tony Phillips, and it's very important that we understand these cycles. They overlap 24, 25 in the beginning, and then here soon we'll just see nothing but solar cycle 25. Actually, I don't think we've had a solar cycle 24 sunspot in quite some time. In fact, solar cycle is showing signs of life. In the past month, it has produced the strongest solar flare in years, and a sunspot that lasted 2 whole weeks, AR 2765. Now the sun is blank and quiet again. This is a sign that while solar minimum may be losing its grip, it isn't over yet. And that's very important to point out because everybody, the thing about the grand solar minimum is when people have been told one thing and then think they understand it, and then they spew out that misunderstanding of information, and it might embarrass them a little bit. Some people think that because there's going to be a solar max, that's going to end the grand solar minimum. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, that's not how that works. The grand solar minimum, from what I've learned, has never told me that there's never been a solar max during these solar cycles. Now, you look back at the chart for the Maunder minimum, all right? And you look at that chart and you say, well, look, it doesn't look like we're having any maximums whatsoever here. Guys, you got to keep in mind the record keeping back this time, all right? It's not as sufficient or as efficient as it is now. Got a little better by the time we got to the Dalton minimum. And look at the Dalton minimum. See these spikes right here? Those are peaks. So these are solar maxes. These 2 cycles right here did reach a maximum. Now, that's a very weak maximum. Let's compare it to now. I mean, we're not even seeing this. This is solar cycle 24 will come down, and then we'll see another weak max here. And then by the time we get to here, we'll be at the bottom once again. And even this predicts we'll see activity from other cycles. So for those of you out there, here's the Dalton minimum. These are 2 solar cycles right here. They have maximums. That was considered a grand solar minimum. There's 2 cycles in here that show weak maximums. You have the peak, the declination heading into the grand solar minimum, 2 to 3 solar cycles that are low. Even at the end of the Dalton minimum, solar cycle 24 looks like it still came in lower than the end of the grand solar minimum back in the Dalton minimum. So the beginning is weaker than the end, which usually shows it, and it comes back pretty strong from the Dalton once we get in the 1850s. Then we have the non-cyclic solar minimum activity here. And I say this because we saw some very deep minimums in these solar cycles here in 1900 and 1910. But as you see, this is about average to above average solar activity. Weaker, but not as weak. right now what we're experiencing, definitely grand solar minimum week. And you compare it to here's the Maunder, the Dalton, and then now the current one, which this one that we're heading into is considered a grand cycle. The grand cycles are 350 to 415 years. This is grand cycle number 2. And that's why you'll hear me on this channel say that we're going to be looking at a grand solar minimum that will be somewhere between a Dalton and a Maunder. Where is that, you say? Where is that? Maybe it's right here. Maybe the solar activity is here instead of here. But between a Dalton and a Maunder, to me, still is pretty cold, if you ask me. And when you follow the work of Zarkova with her super grand solar minimum cycles, that's why the first grand cycle of a super grand solar minimum was the Maunder minimum. This next cycle, grand cycle, is not going to be as weak, magnetic-wise anyway, is not going to be as weak. And even into the third grand cycle is where we will see maximum strength out of the magnetic field from the sun. Unfortunately, we're not going to be alive to see that part. After we get to this third grand cycle, halfway through it, that's when we start dropping like a rock and entering a new type of Maunder minimum type grand solar minimum. But that's not going to be for another 1,500 years. We're not going to see the strength of a Maunder minimum or worse for 1,500 years. In the meantime, we'll see grand solar minimums that will still produce problems for crops. It'll produce infrastructure problems. We'll still see snow in areas we shouldn't see snow. We'll have droughts in certain regions of the world. We'll see short and hot summers and then long cold winters. So by any means am I trying to minimizing this upcoming grand solar minimum. But don't be fooled. Just because we see the beginning of another solar cycle doesn't mean grand solar minimum is over. That's not how it works. Grand solar minimum is a collection of period of time of several cycles with low activity, lower than average, below average activity, which then interacts with our climate. And we've seen it throughout history. So, a couple things to go over that's related grand solar minimum. For instance, the KP indices I was talking to you guys about being a 1 and 2 with a Earth-facing coronal hole, that's usually a sign of a good indication of earthquake or volcanic activity. We have a KP of 1 and 2 right now. We got a very strong 7.4 earthquake that was downgraded to a 7.1 in New Zealand today. Now, this is out in the middle of nowhere. No damage, no injuries, nothing like that. But these volcanoes, earthquake activity, this has been proven to be correlated with the low activity from the sun. And like I showed you guys here on our website here at thegrandsolarminimum.com, and we got all kinds of funny things going on too. Not just the sun, but look, our planetary alignment is going to play a huge part of volcanic and earthquake activity over the next several decades. And especially right now, quite the cluster. I've read a lot about this formation too. This is also an indication of the beginning, right at the beginning parts of a Milankovitch cycle, which lasts for over 100,000 years. And you got to remember, folks, cycles, they go up and down. They start and they drop. They go back up, they go back down. So just because we're in the beginning of a Milankovitch cycle doesn't mean we're going to see glaciation right now. This is a long, drawn-out cycle, and we are at the beginning of it. We are going to be witnessing the beginning of a declination and cooler temperatures, but we're not going to be around for the big show, folks. Your kids aren't. Your kids' won't be either. That's just the way I've read the history and how I believe that we're going to be entering an ice age anytime soon. We are due, but I don't think it's going to be in anyone's lifetime. Who knows? I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Or no, I hope I'm right, actually. I don't want to be wrong about this. Who wants to live in an ice age? Seriously. I mean, the weather and the stuff that we report here on this channel now is enough. I just wouldn't want to live in a cold climate on a consistent basis. And on top of earthquake action today, we do have a report here on watchers.news. Magma recharging beneath the Washian volcano. Now, this is a part of a volcanic field in China. Guys, the volcano that they're talking about here hasn't went off in 500,000 years. I'm sorry, 500,000 years. 500,000 years. Researchers said they discovered two vast magma chambers under the Hui in the Wodolachi volcanic field in Heilongjiang near the border of North Korea and Russia. The models indicate chambers dwarf the volcano, which are about 350 feet tall and 3 miles wide. The last eruption was more than 500,000 years ago and was already considered extinct, making the discovery a surprise to geophysicists. The researchers have been more focused on the Changbai or the Peikitu, I think that's how you say it, Peikitu mountain, whose explosion in 946 AD was one of the strongest volcanic events in history. But the volcanic fields of Hui and Changbai would be linked to some degree, so the study noted. They used sensors to spot electromagnetic anomalies underground and found magma, an unusual blip from 9 miles underground, and another one 5 miles underground. The computer modeling suggested that there could be two huge magma chambers with combined depth of more than 6 miles. The chambers were part of a larger system that could be linked with the Changbai volcano by secondary mantle convection. A good paper here. I suggest everyone read up on it. But the main reason why I wanted to bring this up, anybody who is already well versed about this topic, grand solar minimum. Some of you out there might be reading the book Upheaval by John L. Casey. And John talks about major volcanic eruptions from 2017 through 2037. We can expect a major volcanic eruption. So this paper comes out at an interesting time where we are entering a grand solar minimum. We've got a couple decades of some severe volcanic action, earthquake action, and cosmic radiation exposure to this planet. So this paper coming out, a volcanic that was considered extinct, now we find two magma chambers that are pretty deep, if you ask me. This paper does not give a timeline just yet on when they think that we will see an eruption. Nonetheless, these are very historic and ancient volcanoes, and the Changbai, I think that's what they call it, Changbai, let me see if that's right. Yeah, the Changbai volcano, 946 AD, was the strongest explosion in history. So very, very interesting stuff here. Check it out at watchers.news. And staying near China, 8.5 million people affected, 63 killed as intense downpours to continue southern China. And for those of you who are new, you're like, well, what does this have to do, Jake, with grand solar minimum? You just jump from earthquakes to volcanoes. Now you're talking about flooding. What gives? During lower solar activity periods of time, weakened magnetosphere allows more cosmic radiation, which then these cosmic rays, these highly charged particles, serve as almost as magnets for water vapor droplets. That's why you're seeing all of these stories. Like if you go to Watchers right now, which here I'll click on this right there real quick. Let's see, we've got 20,000 people evacuated after landslide, and that's because of heavy rains, saturated grounds. What causes all that? Again, cosmic radiation is like a magnet for water vapor, and they create some pretty large water droplets. I've seen reports where we are getting a month's worth of rain in 4 hours. I'm going to go over the hailstorm thing here in a minute. I mean, Watchers.news is full of articles that they should be really a part of the Grand Solar Minimum brand. Everything that's really, pardon me, everything that they're talking about here is related to what's going on right now. Volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, landslides, snowstorms, you name it. Everything that we cover on the Grand Solar Minimum is laid out here on Watchers.news. It's not a rogue planet with a dark core or anything like that. It's the sun. And this is one of the most reliable websites for information about events on this planet. And low key, they don't know that this is all related to the sun. So when you see these big stories on floods, or ones like this one right here is even crazier. Severe hailstorm causes flooding and major traffic disruption in northern Greece. We saw something like this in Mexico last year. And what's so significant about this story, the people that witnessed this, they were, reporters from the local area, had them quoted saying things like, "We couldn't believe our eyes." What happened? 12 to 16 inches of ice pellets, hail, had fallen from the storm. I mean, the pictures say it all, folks. We've got heavy equipment moving this stuff. Yeah, it's June. Hail as deep as a heavy snow. And then, of course, when the hail melts, you've got flooding. I mean, again, if you're new, you're thinking, okay, well, that's hail. Isn't that global warming? No. One of the top ingredients to grand solar minimums, highly charged particles will light up the atmosphere, charge it up. Severe thunderstorms, more lightning, more hail. More hail because of how much colder the atmosphere is getting. And then when it mixes with that warmer air that's closer to the ground. And guys, I want to show you something real quick. Let's go back to, as you see here at the top of your screen, it says TCI is 2.79. Now the record for the TCI, which is the thermosphere, by the way, guys, the very top of the atmosphere, the record is 2.05. Here recently, the last couple of months, we have started seeing values drop into the 2-point range. Before that, we've been staying in the 3s and the 4s, which, by the way, 3 and 4 is still cold. Very, very cold. But how do I know that this grand solar minimum is just digging in and only getting started? Things like this. The TCI, 2.79, we're near record levels. We're supposed to be waking up the sun, right? So why is the thermosphere still so cold? We're seeing noctilucent clouds in further south than we ever have before. Last year we saw them in Arizona. We've already had sightings in Idaho, and it's only just begun. Noctilucent cloud season, that is. Those are due because of how cold it is in the mesosphere. And I know I'm not saying that right, so Mari, go ahead and put the logo that you use when I mispronounce something, because I'm pretty sure I did pronounce it right. Anyway, but so we got that. We got a lot of cold air going on. A colder atmosphere also contributes to more, in my opinion, more tornadoes, especially in the spring and summer. There it is. Good job, Mari. So everything, the heavy flooding, the heavy hail, that's in part and contribute to cosmic radiation. And we have an abundance of cosmic radiation, as you see at the bottom below the sun, 10% in the atmosphere. The record is 11.7. The record low is negative 39. So that gives you an idea how high we are right now with cosmic radiation saturation in our atmosphere. More cosmic rays, more highly charged particles interacting with particles already in mesosphere. I knew that, by the way. but already interacting with particles that are currently in the atmosphere. Yeah, so it's not chemtrails, it's not geoengineering. This is all done by the sun. And the best thing about this science, folks, is the sun is not Republican or Democrat. The sun is the sun. And it does what it wants, and it controls all. It gives life, and it taketh life as well. I know, right? Preach on, Brother Jake. So, part of grand solar minimums. January snowfall blankets high elevations across Idaho and Montana. That's right, January. Look at these pictures. I know it's in the mountains. I get it. But Jesus. 10 inches of snow. The Blaine County Sheriff's Department actually issued a felony warrant, a felony arrest warrant for Mother Nature for illegal dumping. I think it's cute when they do that. Like when they issue a warrant for Puxatawny Phil's arrest for saying there's 6 more weeks of winter. Oh, you don't see pictures? Yeah, I guess I got to switch scenes. It's a good thing I got the chat up today. Here's your picture. All right, so snow. Pretty heavy snow. Thank you, Ghost Mountain. Pictures of snow in the mountains, by the way. Let's see here. Winter storm warnings were issued for elevations of 5,500 feet in the southwestern Montana, and forecasters warned that travel may be difficult on mountain roads. The warnings also extended to parts of Idaho. Department of Transportation webcams from Idaho and Montana showed some snow-covered roads throughout the day on Wednesday. That was yesterday. National Weather Service in Missoula, Montana, noted that it appeared snow amounts several... the snow till 19 inches of snow. What? Some of the stations showed 19 inches of snow, which is more in one day that had been recorded in the last 30 to 40 years. The National Weather Service called it historic heavy precipitation event. I mean, come on, guys. For those of you out there who think that this is global warming's fault, I'm sorry. Tell me, what is the science behind that? Last week, we were talking about I-80 being closed in June. Sorry, getting a little excited here, guys, but we worry about the year without a summer. And remember, that's going to be a regional thing. That's not everybody in the United States is going to go the whole summer without summer. It's regional. And folks out there near I-80 in Idaho and Montana have to start thinking, are we seeing that right now? I mean, let's talk about this. Last September, towards the end of the September, Great Falls, Montana, 49 inches of snow. 49 inches of snow in late September 2019. And now we're heading into June. And we're still seeing snow in Montana. The fact, and I'm going to look this up, maybe this happens every year. But I have a feeling that this is not normal. And there's a reason why we're seeing this. And that's why you're here at this channel, Grand Solar Minimum, to learn more about the science, to learn more about what the sun does for our climate and everything else. And I'll tell you something, with the recent events, folks, if you don't have your prep in check right now, if you're not growing and canning and starting to move towards a self-reliant lifestyle, now's the time. You got to get it going. You can't wait any longer. You got to start your projects now, because I'm going to tell you something, guys. You're not just going to be able to start growing your garden and then canning and then, I'm ready. I'm good. The first year, second year, year 3. No, it takes several years to get this process going and be consistent and self-reliant. Trial and error for the first couple of years, especially people who are new to growing. Trial and error. Guys like Jesse, he's got an acre garden. He'll be fine. He's canning. Hell, he's eating tomato sauce from 7 years ago. I watched a show on Netflix called Alone, and they dropped these guys off, 10 people, out in the middle of the Arctic. And whoever was the last one out there won $500,000. And they showed what these people had to do for food, shelter. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. I learned so much about nutrients and food and what you can eat and what you can't eat. The one thing that I'll tell you right now is that you can't live in the Arctic or in cold climate. You can't make it off of berries and other plants. It was amazing. This show taught me so much. Several contestants from that show alone were meant to be there. Now, what made me kind of concerned in the beginning of this program is that the first two people that left the show had stomach issues from eating their food. One guy ate a muskrat and the other guy ate a fish. Actually, he didn't even get a chance to flay the fish because he was so excited about the fish eggs that he found that he was instantly, literally put these things in a baggie and was slurping these fish eggs out. And I was getting kind of grossed out, but I was like, ooh. But there is a significant amount of nutrients in that. Didn't know it. Some people have the guts to do that. Anyway, this guy got sick, and he had to leave. His insides were all fucked up after that. Excuse my language, but it was bad. And then the muskrat guy, he even showed how to check organs and making sure you're not eating anything that tainted meat. And he got sick. And he left. A couple people out there, though, that were eating bunnies and fish. And this one guy caught a moose and did really, really good with that. But here's the thing, and you would have never known this. Think about this. This guy had it down, man. He had a system where he stored his meat. He built like a tree stand for the meat to be up off the ground so wolverines and bears wouldn't get to it. Just detailed information. And the guy had so much, he had over 100 pounds worth of meat. And you're thinking, this guy's going to win based on how much meat he has. But guess what? Moose is very lean. And this guy was losing weight, and he was eating at will. Like, he was set up. So, my point I'm trying to make is that there's so many facets to prepping and nutrition and how you're going to feed yourself and how are you going to make sure that you have the calories in you. And this show alone really, really opened my eyes to like, wow, what if we get a solar flare that wipes out the grid in 2027 and we head into 2028 and it's one of the coldest winters ever and people are still dealing with power issues and the food supply chain is messed up, and now we've got to start fending for ourselves. Hopefully our communities, we've learned how to work together and help each other out, but don't bank on someone knocking on your door going, hey, you hungry? That's not going to happen. So that show, folks, if you haven't seen it, it's called Alone. It's on Netflix. Very, very good survivalist show. I learned a lot about sheltering. I learned a lot about insulation. I learned a lot about nutrients from certain parts of animals, such, like you can get a significant amount of fat from a moose tongue. If you need to put weight back on, and at some point in the show, this guy needed to put weight back on, and that's what he did. He was eating, moose kidneys. Those are apparently full of fat and all that. I'm getting way off basis here, but the point I'm trying to make is the importance of your prep. Because right now, our news headlines are showing us that we are seeing grand solar minimum conditions, and we're just at the very beginning. Snow in June, 16 inches of hail in Spain, floods in China, volcanoes that are 500,000 years old are waking up, 7.4 earthquakes in the middle of the ocean that could cause tsunamis. Haven't, thank God they haven't. And then the Weather Channel says midsummer to early fall temperatures are expected to be warmer than average for much of the lower 48. Let's show you the map. Do I believe it? Okay. Let's start on the West Coast. No. Right here and here? No. What are they talking about? And I'll show you too, guys, this region especially. Here, I'm surprised they're calling this cooler. I expect it to be warm here and in here. Let's move over to the mid part of the country, over to the East Coast. I don't believe this either. Cooler here, warmer here, maybe cooler up here and warmer here. I don't know. But just because we're in a grand solar minimum doesn't mean that we won't have hot summers. And I'm not trying to be that guy that sits here and says, nope, 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 it's going to be cold. No, it's called Alone, Stephen. It's called Alone, the show on Netflix. But no, what I'm saying is grand solar minimum is short, hot summers, short growing seasons. A lot of farmers are learning that too. Yeah, that's great. Good for them. Speaking of farmers, crop reports. Soybeans, everybody's planted. Corn, everybody's planted. I mean, pretty much. Right now, we're going to be watching percentage of corn. Right now, we're doing great. Some of us are actually ahead of schedule. But we're seeing corn in the fair, good, and excellent conditions, and very, 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 very few corn plants that are poor or very poor. That's awesome. 2020, as far as planting is gone, has happened a lot more efficient than once believed. And I know there's a lot of farmers out there who are on the edge because, look, 2018 was bad. 2019 was like, what the, So, interesting to see the crops doing well. Let's hope we can continue this. Again, hurricane season will be on the way. Looking at the U.S., they had it fixed one week. Now they've switched it back. Let's rotate it again. I love it when they do that. Everybody's suitable for field work, according to this map. This is the best shape that I've ever seen this country in, as far as with days available to work in the fields. I know last year this time we were barely getting stuff planted. I mean, think about it. Last year this time there were still corn plants that weren't planted in certain states because of flooding and snow. I'm glad we had a winter that wasn't as relentless as 2018 and 2017. I don't think some of our farmers could afford another winter or spring like that. I know some are still reeling from the previous two, that even though they have a good year this year, it helps a little bit. So, again, farming looking good, crops looking good. Let's hope that our weather cooperates and we don't have a lot of crop damage this year. Let's take a look at our GFS outlook. Now, right now, we're looking at the infrared satellite GOES 16. There's that low pressure system. It's right over West Virginia right now, the eye of that low pressure system. And the reason why I'm pointing this out to you guys is because I talked about this last week, the temperature difference from this particular storm. And this system did hold up. We started talking about this last Monday. If you look here at the GFS, this is current. There's that low that just kind of been hanging around. And also, I want to show you that it shows up on the temperatures as well. Right there. Here's your daytime high. This is exactly where the eye of this low pressure system is. So it is keeping temperatures cooler in this region today because of this system that we have that we're dealing with here off the East Coast. Now, the reason why I want to reiterate that is because I showed you guys something last week where the BOM in Australia tried to tell us that with more rain leads to higher temperatures. And that's just absolutely false. And that's proving it right here. Lots of rain. Look at that. Temperatures cooler in the area that has been getting consistent rain. So how are we looking? Rain for South Florida, East Coast. Some rain across the northern plains into the Midwest. Oklahoma by Friday. And Kansas as well with heavy showers in northern Texas. Scattered to moderate rain across the Midwest and Northeast and even parts of the South by Friday. And as we move into Saturday, we'll start to see that moisture creep up into the Northeast, further east by Saturday into Sunday. More rain expected for the Great Lakes regions and the Midwest and the northern plains. South getting a little bit of a break. But by Sunday, northern Texas, Iowa, through the Midwest to see some storms and showers to roll through. Just moderate rain here on Sunday, June 21st through the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. And that daytime heating, you guys, you notice how the rain kind of pulses. Look how it's heavy and light. It's heavy and light. The daytime heating is giving the atmosphere more energy and more chances for development of storms as we go through Sunday into the Great Lakes and the Ohio Northeast. Rainy start to your Monday for parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee Valley, and across Ohio heading into Pennsylvania. Possible severe weather across Oklahoma into Arkansas on Monday and Tuesday. Elsewise, we'll see moderate showers across other states, Iowa, Wisconsin, Missouri. And then some heavy rain and more chances for severe weather again in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas as the system will move through. Right behind it, a cold front, a weak one, but nonetheless, it's pushing all this energy off to the east, putting severe storm chances again by midweek next week, June 24th. Jacksonville, Florida, also looking at heavy rain, parts of southern Georgia. And just moderate rain sticking around for the rest of midweek. During the night, a break. During the daytime, we see more development thanks to the energy of the sun. Heavy rain across Minnesota, parts of the Dakotas on the next weekend. Michigan, Interlochen, Traverse City, watch out. Heavy rain to invade your area. And across Detroit, a good swath of rain as well. Before that low pressure system, again, after it passes through the Ohio Valley, will bring another weak cold front. And I say weak because it's not like, 40s and 50s. But we have a very active pattern here for the rest of the month of June. Some severe weather in places where it should be severe. The Midwest, northern plains states, across northern Texas, and the South. We get to 1st of July, rainy for the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee and Kentucky area as well. Northeast with some moderate showers. So really from late June through the beginning of July, we will have a very active pattern for the Midwest, northern plain states, central plains, south, and northeast. I want to go back and let's focus on the West Coast. What are we looking at moisture-wise? Rain and just some rain for Montana and Washington and Oregon. Nothing for California, nothing for Nevada. The four quarter states, pretty dry. Really dry. In fact, the West Coast could flirt with some drought situations here at this current weather pattern. Let's take a look at our temperatures. Cooler temperatures out here in the Northwest and the Plain States. My goodness. So this is June 18th, a high of 44 degrees in parts of Montana. June. Parts of Colorado, Wyoming as well in the 40s. June, Friday, 19th. Summer-like weather across the Ohio Valley, Tennessee, and the South along the East Coast. You see the cooler temperatures. That's association of the low-pressure system dropping rain. Overnight temperatures comfortable for most of us here in the United States. But then look at that weak cold front as that low-pressure system moves out of the east. We will see a very, very weak cold front. But look at the temperatures across the northern plains in the 60s and 70s, even in Iowa, Nebraska in the low 80s. Overnight lows very, very, very chilly across the Northwest on June 22nd, just where it should be for the rest of the country. Temperatures really heating up in California and Arizona and the four quarter states, guys. That's an area to watch. And looking at these temperature forecasts, the most of this country is going to be experiencing normal winter weather, except for the Northwest, or summer weather, I should say, parts of the Great Lakes and the Northern Plains, and parts of the Northeast. The Central Plains, the Ohio and Tennessee Valley, and the South and the East Coast should see summer-like conditions, but we're really watching the Southwest for extreme drought conditions to form. As I just showed you guys, in the precipitation forecast, we were not looking at anything as far as rain for this particular area. So temperatures in the triple digits, upper 90s, for a very long period of time in the Southwest. For the foreseeable future, from late June all the way to the early part of July. And this is the daytime high temperatures for July 4th across the country. Let's start here. Daytime in the east, 90s, 80s across the south. This is typical and reminiscent of 2017, 2018, 4th of July. Temperatures in the mid-70s, low 70s across Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania. We usually see 80s and 90s by. This is normally the hottest time of the year for these parts of the country. Also in the Northwest, cooler than usual, but blazing hot on the 4th of July in the Southwest. Look at that. Triple-digit temperatures near the Arizona-California border. Serious heat, folks. We are going to be watching that. If I'm not mistaken, 125-degree temperature is being forecasted out of that region. So hot and dry in the Southwest. That means fire weather. We're going to have to keep our eyes on that. Definitely. Fire weather, drought situation, not good. Yeah, there's a lot of us in here that are not ready for this hot weather, especially if you guys live out in the Southwest. I feel for you out there. Mari, would you like to say hello to anyone or say thanks or anything like that? It's been a while, so glad to see people out there. Knife collectors, Cheryl, good to see you out there.
I don't have my own mic. I'm going to share with you, Jake. KC, knife collector, is going to have a birthday soon.
Whoop whoop.
Not looking forward to it. And I said, come on, I got to make the best of it. I've been stuck at 27 for how many years, Jake?
At least 3.
Oh man, so much that my kid actually thinks I'm 27 still.
Yeah, we actually got her a cake 3 years ago that said happy 27th birthday. So
I gave up on that a long time ago. I just hit the repeat button.
Your daughter was very disturbed when she found out you were 27.
She was devastated when she found out I was in my 40s and not my 20s. She was just like, I've robbed her of 2 decades of myself.
Really?
It was cruel.
She'll be all right.
But, it's hard growing up. Jake.
Sure.
I'll never grow up. I'm like a just crazy teenager stuck in a 40-year-old body. Never grow up, Jake. And then I want to say hello to Redbeard and send my condolences. He just had a baby in January and lost his wife the end of February. That's absolutely heartbreaking, and I don't have any words really to soothe. It's just, it hurts, and I'm sorry to hear it, and I'm glad you're here. We got a great community, and
good people here.
We're here to talk to and chat and leave a comment, and we're here for you. So, and we haven't been on a whole lot, but I'm so excited to let everyone know we have the roof on the house that I've been working on the past 7 years. And it was like a big milestone for us this week.
It's a process.
It's been a total struggle, and it's gone a long time, but we had the means to do it, and we did it, and it feels good. We still have a lot of work to do on the inside, but it feels good to hit that milestone. And thank you all for being so patient with us while we work through what we're doing in our personal lives and not online. Now.
We miss this every day. We miss talking to you guys, and we miss reporting on this. And trust me, we definitely continue to monitor the situation, but it's been hectic in our personal lives, and we're trying to get some things put together. In the meantime, we're doing limited shows. We will do as many broadcasts as we possibly can. We're getting close to the weekend. We're kind of winding it down for the week. So I anticipate another show. Hopefully we can do a call-in show here soon as well. But we want to thank everybody for tuning in today for our Grand Solar Minimum News Update. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us. Without our subscribers, this channel would not be here. Thank you when it comes to t-shirt sales, when it comes to donations, super chats, PayPal, whatever it is, what you can do, just know everything goes back into the channel, and we greatly appreciate your support, as the Grand Solar Minimum, folks, is only getting going, and we will be here for quite some time reporting on this as well. All right, we hope everyone has a safe day and have a good one, and we will talk very soon, guys. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.